Coming up on this episode of the Paw Report, we're talking to Dr. Marcy Kirk about what to do if your pet is pregnant. Are you having puppies or kittens? Well, stick around to find out what you need to do. That's coming up next on the Paw Report. Production for the Paw Report is made possible by Midas Auto Service and Tire in Charleston and Mattoon. Midas repairs both cars and light trucks. Midas cares about our community and thanks you for being a responsible pet owner. You deserve the Midas touch. Hello and welcome to the Paw Report. I'm your host, Kate Pleasant, and today we're talking about if your animal is having puppies or kitties. So this will probably be a fun topic to cover. And we brought in Dr. Marcy Kirk from Albin Animal Hospital. Thanks for coming in to talk about this.
Thanks for having me.
Last time you were here, we talked about euthanasia. So
yeah, this is the opposite side of it.
Much happier this time. So yeah, it's the circle of life.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how often, we will have a sad event and then a puppy and kitten will come in right afterwards and it's just like, okay, everything's right with the world.
I think puppies and kitties do make everything right with the world. So baby animals are fun for everyone. But when we're talking about puppies and kitties, let's start with, how do you know your animal is pregnant?
Sure. Well, there can be lots of signs and there can be no signs sometimes. I know there's women too sometimes that don't know that they're pregnant until, they have a baby, and that can happen with dogs too, but there are usually some signs. So most puppies will go into heat, which means they are fertile about 4 to 6 months of age. Now, sometimes it can vary, and same with kittens. So that's when they can be receptive. Now, that's not necessarily when you want to start breeding them, but that's when they can become pregnant.
It's like an 11-year-old. You
yes,
know,
yeah,
you can become
it's
fertile
possible
at an early age, but you don't necessarily
want to do that.
Right.
So, you can start seeing some signs of going into heat, which would be some discharge and things like that. Male dogs, they can start at a younger age, or it might be, they may not know what to do or anything till they're a little older, but that's something to be aware of, that they can much younger than 4 months old. But signs that she, may be pregnant, whether it's cat or dog, they can have some development along their mammary glands. You'll start to know they're kind of swelling, maybe eating a little bit more. Sometimes they'll be a little restless. So the normal gestation, it's really easy to remember. Woman's 9 months. Puppies or dogs and cats are usually about 9 weeks, so about 63 days.
That's so much faster.
Yeah, it's much quicker, and that's why we end up with so many dogs and cats, because they can, reproduce very quickly and a lot at one time, and have multiple cycles throughout a year. So it can get out of hand pretty quickly. So usually it's the kind of, your belly gets a little bit bigger, you get some mammary development, and that's why I think it does surprise people sometimes, because it's such a short-term thing.
Right.
So.
I imagine a lot of times by the time you discover it, it's almost over.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And honestly, some vets are really good at palpating, but you might not even be able to palpate them. So what we usually recommend, if you suspect that they might be pregnant, is you can actually shoot an x-ray at day 45. So if you're not sure, when it is, we may have to do some kind of calculating. You may have to take a couple x-rays, along the lines, but at day 45, you should be able to see skeletons, and you can kind of try to count and get an estimate at least, and maybe even a size appreciation if everything's going to go okay. And the reason you kind of want to know is because it's not like a woman where it's like, okay, you got one, you want to kind of count and make sure you've got everybody taken care of. So about day 45 or so, we can kind of get an idea. You can ultrasound them and kind of see if there's babies, but that's not a good way to count, because of the way the ultrasound works. Things can kind of lay on top of each other, so you don't know if you're counting one twice or how that works. So the x-ray is really the best way to kind of count and get an idea. Yes, yeah, and you kind of count skeletons. Now you can still be off a little bit, but it's much closer than ultrasound. So.
Okay. And is a cat the same?
Same concept.
Okay.
Cats usually do pretty well. They're kind of breeding machines, so they typically don't have too many issues. So, but if you have a specific breed of cat that you're actually trying to breed and everything, day 45 is the same thing. It's about 63 days for dogs and cats.
That is so much shorter than people. So
yeah,
it is amazing, how fast that could multiply. What's the average litter size, for most cats and dogs?
Well, I would say for most cats, they're kind of a little more standard, probably 5 or so, maybe a little less if it's her first time, maybe a little more if it's, she's had multiple litters. Dogs, it really depends on the size of the dog. The smaller the dog, typically, the fewer you're going to have, whereas the bigger dogs, they're going to have 8, 9, 10, something like that.
So many
little
animals.
Right. And that's another good reason to do an x-ray too, because let's say they have just one. Well, that baby's going to get all those nutrients, and then she may have trouble delivering it. So it's kind of a good idea. It just gives you an idea, because she's pregnant maybe, but you don't know how many and if she's going to have any issues. So the x-ray can be really beneficial in that regard too.
Okay, so if you suspect your animal's pregnant, you should probably take it to the vet right away.
Right, and we may have to say, okay, we need to wait, because if when she may have been bred, and it's like day 30, we may be suspicious, but we may not have a definitive diagnosis for you because actually they can go through false pregnancies where they will go through they will eat more, they will actually get milk, and milk will come out and everything, and they go through all the same signs, but they don't have any puppies or kittens in there. So that's also a possibility. So that's another reason the x-ray kind of is nice to have.
Is it common? Or
I wouldn't say it's as common as them actually getting pregnant, but it does happen.
Okay. What are some common problems, a dog could have or a cat could have with a pregnancy?
So, unplanned pregnancy, it's kind of a funny thing to say, but
I had to laugh when you said that about, thinking about that in an animal, but it was true.
Well, because it's very instinct driven. So, it really doesn't matter if let's say you have a brother and a sister, but you're planning to breed the female dog to somebody else, it won't matter. He doesn't care. It's an instinct. So if you have 2 unneutered and an unspayed female in a house, solid barriers. They will go through anything. They will bust down things. So you need to make sure if they are unsupervised, solid barriers between them, because you may have something happen that you don't want.
Right.
Because you can run into similar issues, that people have
with inbreeding.
Right. So that's something to think about. But another issue is, let's say you have a little female, dog, and you're planning to get her spayed, but she went into heat. Any male dog can breed her, and so let's say a big dog comes, and that can really cause some issues, and you may be looking at a C-section then, which obviously can be costly. And not only that, it can be risky to both the mom and the babies, just like in human. There's a lot of similarities. So that's definitely something to consider as well. So if you have an unspayed female, you definitely want to keep males, don't let her kind of wander around unsupervised. And that's another thing for unneutered males too. They're really good at discovering females that are in heat.
Right.
So that's another thing to consider. You want to keep them on a leash or in a fence or something, because they will run in search of them, and they can get hit by cars. They can have angry owners they think their dog may be being attacked by another one. So those are some things to kind of consider, because it is very instinct driven for them.
And you said recently you did an interesting C-section. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Well, we had a large dog in, and we actually put some pictures on our Facebook. They were very nice about letting us do that. But she was a big Mastiff and had 8 puppies in there, and just was having some trouble delivering. And we had about 10 people assisting us, and so that can get, again, quite costly. But also you got to think they have to go under anesthesia, so that's anesthetizing not only mom but the puppies.
Right.
And then obviously blood loss and things like that, so it can be quite risky. And then you never know how the puppies are going to do. They did wonderful, and they're doing fabulous, and mom's doing great. So that's another thing. If you are breeding, they elected to go ahead and spay her, because she had a history of kind of having some problems with delivery, and so that's a good time to do it. It doesn't decrease their milk production or anything like that. They can still nurse, and you're already in there, and so you don't have to worry about any more difficulty, because complications from pregnancy or C-sections can kill them.
Right.
So it's not always a happy thing. So definitely something to consider. You can spay them at the time of the C-section, because if they've had one, the chances go up of them having to have another one.
Okay. And so what if you're at home and you discover, okay, my animal's pregnant. You've gone to the vet says, yes, they are. How do you care for a pregnant animal? What should you be doing?
So it's really important. They do the nesting. I think everybody's kind of heard about women nesting.
Yeah.
And they nest as well. So it's really nice to have a quiet place that they can go. I heard someone at one point recommended a little kiddie pool, those plastic, cheap kiddie pools, putting blankets and things in there because you can just throw that away because it's messy.
Right.
Birth
I'm
is
sure
messy.
it is. I'm sure it is.
Especially with multiple, babies coming out. So she needs a space that can be her own, that she's not going to be bothered. Because most of the time, nature kicks in, they don't need any assistance.
Really?
Most of the
that
time.
was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Do I need to know how to deliver puppies or kitties?
Most of the time, it's better. Farm animals, yes. You can get in there, you can kind of pull things and manipulate. You're not going to hurt anything. But with them, everything's just a little bit more fragile. So if you really think that they're in distress, or they've been pushing for a long time and nothing's happening, or you've had a couple puppies and she's still kind of pushing, but it's been a couple hours, you need to call the vet. And we need to see if there's more puppies in there, if she needs some help, or if we need to go to a C-section.
Right.
Because kind of messing around in there, it can harm the baby, or you can cause some tearing or something, and really lead to some issues down the line.
Okay, so really there's nothing you can do.
Well, and another thing, if she's getting closer to time, she needs to be on a good quality food.
Okay.
Especially whenever they're kind of at the end of gestation, when they're really working, their body's on overdrive, they're making all these puppies, they're starting to make milk. They need to be on a puppy food too, because they need those calories, they need the growing nutrients for all the puppies and everything. And so while they're lactating and at the end of gestation, a high quality puppy food can be really important because they can get kind of skinny, just like women.
Just like people, right?
Yep,
you have
need
to,
to
there's
kind
a
of
lot more caloric output when you're trying to produce milk and things like that. So, okay. And so your puppy or your kitten has had puppies, kittens, whatever the case is. What do you do now? Do you have to help those babies? Do you have to help mom? Is there
Sure.
anything?
It kind of depends on the dog. And this is something else to touch on. If you're thinking about breeding them and it's a plan, you need to make sure she's up to date on vaccines, because then that's going to offer some protection to the puppies as well. Because if she's not vaccinated, they're going to be at extreme risk to pick up parvo, which I think you guys have talked about before, and other kind of distemper, things like that. So if she's vaccinated, we don't like to vaccinate them when they're pregnant. You can, but if you can do it before, if you're planning to breed, that's really good.
Right.
But as far as helping them, if the older they are, so it's best to wait until they're about 2 years of age or so to start thinking about breeding if you're planning to do it. And for that reason, you're going to make sure their heart and lungs are nice and healthy. There's no defects that have been hiding. Same with some of those bigger dogs. Everybody's kind of heard of hip dysplasia and things like that. So you can get them checked out, make sure they're not going to pass any of those conditions on to their litter. And so as long as that's all checked out, most of the time, around 2 years of age or so, they handle it pretty well. They'll nurse and everything. They won't really reject it. Now, when they're younger, you have you're more likely to have a problem where she may not know quite what to do because she's still a puppy herself. Some of them come to it very naturally and they do great, but the younger they are, I think the more likely you are. And older dogs too, they can have problems, but it seems like they're just more aware of what they need to do. They produce enough milk. They typically don't need help. Now, if it's a huge litter, you might need to supplement with some formula and things like that. But for the most part, they can take care of themselves. I mean, they've probably been doing it for so many years before we really got involved. So there are certain breeds that almost always need C-sections though.
Really?
Like bulldogs, you think about those big shoulders and those big heads.
I guess they get narrow.
And they have very narrow hips. So, there are certain breeds that typically, you're just like, okay, we just need to schedule this, when the breeding date was. So they need help. They will definitely need help. It's kind of like turkeys, you hear about turkeys not being able to do that anymore. So we've kind of bred them where they look very nice, but it's not very functional anymore. So they kind of need some help as well. And then if you can start doing most puppies and kittens, even if your dog never had parasites, is doing well, almost all of them are born with worms. When I was in parasitology, they told us it's something like day 43 or something of gestation. I don't actually remember the date. the eggs lay dormant in mom, even though she's not showing any signs, and they migrate to the babies. So they need to be dewormed, no matter if you're seeing
Right
signs
away,
in the
huh?
mom or not. So you can start that as early as 4 weeks, or you can start whenever you start the boosters, which is the first set of vaccines, at about 6 weeks of age.
Okay.
So either way, but just they need to be dewormed even if you're not seeing any problems. So, and no matter how clean the environment or anything is, it's a good idea to just check some stool samples, because puppies, they're like little kids. They can pick up anything. They put things in their mouths, they can just spread things like crazy.
Well,
so.
and they probably have little immune systems at the beginning too, just like
Yeah.
babies, and there's certain things they haven't built up tolerance to
Right.
yet.
So it's a good idea, to keep any unvaccinated animals away from them. I'm sure everybody wants to see puppies, everyone wants to come see them. So just make sure everybody's washing their hands, that's coming to visit and things. It's great. It's great to socialize them.
Sure.
But, you want to make sure you're not spreading any diseases or taking any back to your animals either. So.
What are some things, if you want to breed your dog, that you should consider ahead of time? I know you mentioned, that they're not going to be passing on any of those conditions or anything like that, but overall, even, as a family, what are some things you should consider when you're wanting to breed your dog?
Well, you want to consider the breed. Most of the time you don't do mixed breeds too much. Now, having said that, I have a golden retriever poodle mix, which is a very common.
I was going to say, don't you have a golden doodle?
He's a mix. I got him from a family, but that's a very common mix, and they like to call it a breed, but it's a mix.
Right.
And so most of the time you're going to be breeding purebred. So you want to make sure it's up to the breed standards, and that's just so that you're not carrying on some of those diseases like hip dysplasia, or there's a lot of breeds that have allergy or eye issues. You want to make sure you've got a healthy specimen, and there has been some studies that have shown that the behavior and temperament of mom and dad can influence the behavior and temperament of the puppies. Even though they're only with them from anywhere from 6 to 9 weeks, it still influences them. So if you've got kind of a more aggressive or kind of maybe shy dog, you might want to think about if that's the right one to breed or not. So if you've got a family, you got a dog that's just very happy-go-lucky, it seems like a good specimen, the vet's checked it out, everything sounds really good, then maybe you're ready to get started, and you want to make sure where the bloodlines are so that you aren't doing in the same family. And you want to make sure that that animal has been certified by a vet as well. And because this is very strange, but there are sexually transmitted diseases in dogs.
Oh, I'm sure.
So,
Just like
you want to
anything
make
else.
sure they're tested for that too, because it can get out of hand very quickly. And you don't hear about them too often because it's been under control for so long. We have a lot of responsible breeders in the area, and they do a very good job of taking care of that stuff. So if you're going to do it, do it the right way. And it's not always, most people that are breeding, they're in it for the love of the breed, and so it's not necessarily, if you think you're going to make a lot of money, you're definitely not initially going to make a lot. It's whenever you go on and you have a show and they get champion levels
dogs.
and things like that, that's when you start to make a little profit from it. But if you're just kind of, you love the breed and you want to make sure that you're doing it right, you want to make sure your vet has okayed its systemic health and everything, and as well as the one it's being bred with.
Okay, so we don't just run around matching up dogs.
Yeah, I don't encourage that. I think that, and that's why we have a lot of animals in the shelter, because you have animals running free. Like I said, it's instinct based. They're gonna go find and do what they're supposed to do.
Right.
And then some people have to deal with all the puppies and kittens.
So we spay and neuter to avoid that, right?
Right.
And that's something you recommend?
Yeah, and I think there's lots of reasons to spay and neuter. I mean, puppies, don't get me wrong, puppies and kittens cute as can be, and they're fun. They are a lot of work, but there are some other health benefits to spaying and neutering your pet. We talked about, getting hit by cars and things like that. Obviously that's nice, but females, if you can spay them before they go into their first heat cycle, you will significantly decrease their risk for mammary cancer as they get older, significantly. You can spay them later and it may decrease it, but they still have the potential. And I would say, in the last few months, we had a real run of animals, and mammary cancer in animals is very aggressive. And it starts out with one little lump, and then suddenly every mammary gland is affected. So that is a big reason. If you're not thinking about breeding them, I think absolutely spay and neuter them. First of all, the heat cycle's messy. You don't really want to mess with that too much. I don't, want to clean that up.
I always know people, put them in the laundry room.
Yeah,
during
or
the heat cycle
they make diapers and things like that, but you got to make sure you change those regularly, otherwise they get sores and things. So it's just kind of a mess. Or, if she's outside unattended, you never know what could happen.
Right.
And the same goes with male dogs. It decreases their risk for testicular cancer because you're just taking that away. It decreases but doesn't eliminate their risk for prostate cancer. And sometimes, not always, but it will take away some of those unwanted behaviors that male dogs have, the mounting and sometimes some of the territorial things if you do it at a younger age. And sometimes they won't lift their leg anymore. And some people don't mind and they don't mark their territory. So those are kind of the benefits. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, the dog that I got in December, he wasn't neutered. He was 1.5 years old. We neutered him and he never lifted his leg ever. You would think that would be just so, it just kind of, some of the behavior things, people always worry, okay, I'm going to spay and neuter my dog, but I don't want their personality to change. I haven't heard anybody, complain, maybe a little more calm, but I haven't heard anybody that their temperament has changed at all. So.
What do people in the other camps say? Those that are against spaying and neutering animals in some respect. What's kind of the other side of that?
Well, I haven't really heard good concrete evidence, if you're not breeding. Obviously, the people who are in it for breeding, want to spay and neuter them. You want to do that. But you hear people say, I hear this a lot. I ask when puppies and kittens come in, we always try to start a dialogue about it, and educate people so they know the risks and they know the benefits of everything. Because obviously, it is a surgery. They have to go under anesthesia. There are always risks, whether they're 4 months old, 4 years old, 14 years old. There's always going to be a risk with anesthesia. But the younger they are, they seem to handle it pretty well. But I haven't heard anybody have any good concrete evidence. They really say, oh, I just wanted to have one heat cycle. I hear that's good for them. And why? I haven't read anything.
There's no real medical study out there that says that's a necessary thing.
I went to a conference one time that did say, they read one paper, and it was a research paper from a university that said that they recommended waiting till a male dog was 1 year of age to neuter him because it decreased their risk of tearing one of the ligaments in their knee. I do think, it probably helps develop them, but they said that's one paper, and there's so many more benefits to neutering them.
Okay.
So I haven't really heard any. If people have some, I'd love to read about it, but I haven't, even through school, I didn't really see much benefit to not doing it.
Okay. When we're talking about puppies and kittens, how long do they or should they stay with their mother?
That's a really good question because, for the longest time, it was always 6 weeks. 6 weeks is how long they stay. There's been a lot more talk that 9 weeks is almost about the perfect, because what happens is, they need to be with people and they need to be with their mom. They need to learn how to be dogs and they need to learn that we are not dogs.
Right.
Because, I don't know, we always call them bottle babies, but we always get some kittens or some puppies that either mom rejected or someone's found, and they need to be bottle fed. And they don't know how to be dogs. They think we're their pack and they tend to treat us, and I don't know if you've noticed, but they play with their pack a little more roughly. They kind of get a little more aggressive and they tend to have more of an attitude because they just don't know the difference between people and dogs.
They're all the same as you.
Yeah, so they don't really learn that distinction. So the longer they can stay with mom and their litter mates, they tend to learn that and be more well adjusted. And then humans can be fun and it's a different type of thing. So I think somewhere between 8 and 9 weeks is really a good time to do it. Now, there are different, mom stopped producing milk and there's really, we have all these puppies, we got to get rid of them. 6 weeks is when you can start boosters, and they need to kind of get started on those before I think they should go to a new home.
Okay, so that's something, also to look for if you're purchasing a puppy or getting a puppy from a breeder, that length of stay and do they have their shots, right?
Right, and I think I really encourage people, and having said this, when I got my first puppy, I didn't do any of this. I was young, I was in high school, but I learned my lesson.
Right.
So you really need to go check out the facility. It's very exciting to be like, I have my heart set. For me, I had my heart set on a beagle. I was gonna get a beagle, and as soon as I wanted one, there was no beagles to be found.
Right.
So I was getting desperate. I was a freshman in high school. I wanted my puppy. And I finally found one advertised, and they said, well, we've gotta have a deposit. We've gotta have a yes or no. And I hadn't seen the mom. I hadn't met the puppy or anything. And I was like, yes, I'll take it. That is not the way to go about getting a dog.
That's not how to buy an animal.
Yeah, that's not a good way, because she ended up having epilepsy, which is a genetic link. She was probably somewhere in her family line. I had no idea. She had all kinds of problems. So if I'd done a little more research, and you need to go visit the facility. If they're just trying to get you to commit over the phone, you need to be a little suspicious because either it's not the right one and they're trying to push something off on you because they're like, we need to get rid of these puppies, or there's something else going on. So you want to try to meet mom or dad or both, and kind of get their personality, see the facility, make sure it's nice and clean, because like we said, there are things they can pick up, and no matter how nice the facility is, puppies are going to be a little dirty, but you want to just make sure it's kind of a nice area that they've been kept in and been well cared for.
Right.
I think it's wonderful if they've done, gone to the vet and gotten their first set of boosters. A lot of breeders will do boosters on their own, and you can purchase them at different farm stores and things like that, and I definitely don't recommend it. We have seen animals who have been given boosters from breeders or not from veterinarians that have picked up the conditions. Whenever a vaccine comes into our clinic, we are the ones that unpack it. We know it goes straight into the refrigerator. It's been at the right temperature for the whole time. We don't know. And if you don't give boosters at the right time or you use it incorrectly, they are susceptible to those diseases. So you want to make sure it's been done by a veterinarian. We will sometimes restart them if they've been done, by a breeder. No matter how long they've been in it and they know, what they're doing, it's just better to have a veterinarian check them out, make sure they're healthy before you start doing the boosters and everything.
Okay, great. Well, Dr. Marcy Kirk from Albin Animal Hospitals in Mattoon and Charleston, we thank you for coming in and talking about puppies and kitties today. So thank you very much. Did you know full episodes of The Paw Report are on YouTube? They can be accessed at youtube.com/WEIU-TV. Then just go to the Paw Report playlist and select the episode you want to see. Production for the Paw Report is made possible by Midas Auto Service and Tire in Charleston and Mattoon. Midas repairs both cars and light trucks. Midas cares about our community and thanks you for being a responsible pet owner. You deserve the Midas touch.